Hello, and welcome to the Elevate Entrepreneur, where we decode the success of some of the greatest entrepreneurs that I've met, that I know, that I trust. These individuals have not only built their business up, but they've also impacted lives for the better. Here you will learn not only how to grow your business, but also inspire you to want to be just a little bit better. I'm your host, Raylan Davis. My entire intention is to remove obstacles and excuses as to why people can't realize they deserve more. With that being said, let's jump into this week's episode. Stay motivated, stay elevated. So first and foremost, I want to thank you guys for actually coming, Evan for coming back, and Eddie for coming onto the podcast. Listen, I think if we didn't talk about YouTube, that people would be real mad. But before we get into that, though, I want to hear about your journey of starting out and getting to the point where obviously you're crushing it on YouTube, you're motivating millions of people every single month, and also you're doing public speaking, right? Helping people, the world within. So I want to hear about the journey of getting to that place.
Yeah, of course, and I'm happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me. This has been awesome. So like when I think about from beginning to end, I refer to the quote, "Not all who wander are lost," because from the get-go, my thought was not let's create content on YouTube, let's speak, let's storytell, or any of that stuff. It was kind of following the pursuit of what I wanted to do and weeding out the things that I didn't like. And so for me, it started like playing music around Boston, just acoustic shows, learning how to, music storytelling, writing music, producing, interacting with the crowd, sort of moving through those things, learning what I liked, what I didn't. One day I wrote a video that was about like promising myself I'd continue doing what I want to do creatively, because I'd left the corporate world, my money was drying up, and you're in that situation where now it's not cool to be an entrepreneur. Like now it's right, it gets scary real quick.
What were you doing in the corporate?
I worked for an insurance company. I was doing like onboarding, like learning and development stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds super interesting.
Yeah, pretty dry. Met some beautiful people there, but it wasn't my jam.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the beginning of it, though. Again, like learning that I didn't like certain aspects of that were huge, because then I could move on to what I did. And so I wrote this video called Ode to Excellence and put it on YouTube. And the idea was sort of a letter to myself, like, hey, this is tough. You don't have that safety net. You don't have a lot of things, but for once, don't play conservative. Like put your back against the wall and trust yourself not to fail.
What year was this, by the way?
This was 2014.
And that was that your first YouTube video?
That wasn't music related. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the idea was like an Apple, like how like Apple will sell you an iPhone without showing you an iPhone. There's just people dancing around. It feels good.
Yeah.
I'm like that's what I want this to be in some way. So put it out there and loved making it, and immediately started getting messages that were like, this really helped me. Like, thank you. I watch this every day. So it's like that intersection of what you love to do and what adds value. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, there's something here, And that became sort of the beginning, writing about my life and the wins and losses and ups and downs, and sharing what I think is valuable for other people going through the same stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of cool because Evan's a lot similar in terms of like the motivation, like curating information in a way that's going to help people through their journey. And I'm kind of curious now, again, speaking of YouTube, is like how much of what you guys do is like, this is for me and it just happens to be good for everybody else. Like, I'm kind of curious about that.
Go for it.
So what I find is if you talk through your experiences and lesson learned, there's enough crossover where it will help other people.
Yeah.
It's like trying to reverse engineer, in my opinion, what will help others hasn't been effective. It's like, I did this, I got my ass kicked, or this was incredible. Here's what I did about it, and it was effective. And here it is for you going through something similar, because the context changes, obviously. But if you look at, you name it, right? Student, athlete, entrepreneur, whatever, it's like a lot of the obstacles are similar, and the mental approach required to get through it is similar. And so that's been my whole thing, is like, tell stories in a way that's authentic to you, put it out into the world, and hopefully other people can use it in their own lives.
Yeah. For me, it's like it's hitting younger Evan, as well as current Evan, depending on the type of content I'm making. So if I'm doing like lessons that I've shared, I'm basically talking to younger Evan and saying, dude, like here's how you can shortcut this. So that there's so many people right now who are 19-year-old Evan trying to get their business off the ground and struggling. So I think all of us, like, I think your purpose comes from your pain, right? Whatever you struggled the most with is what you want to help other people with. So every time we struggle and we learn and we improve, we just naturally want to share and make it a little easier for others to not have to struggle as much. The famous entrepreneur content where, DJing other people, Oprah Winfrey or Richard Branson or whoever, I still need that myself.
Yeah.
It's like I want, when I started, I had nobody, right? And my parents are great, mentors as humans, but not in the entrepreneur world at all. And I had no friends. I went to my banker to ask for help, right? I mean, I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
So, and now I've grown and made friends with a bunch of these people, which has been really helpful, but I still want Steve Jobs in my ear every day and Warren Buffett in the other ear every day. And so I would do this for me, even if nobody else liked it, because I need it, right?
Yeah. I think about I just made a Twitter thread about this. So in my past, I don't know where it came from, but I just created this idea that I'm not a good writer. Like it kind of came from, I guess, high school and all that other stuff, right? I was kind of behind back in the day, and so somewhere along the line, I just assumed I was like, I'm just not a good writer. And so to make myself right, I've been writing like these microblogs, right? They used to be called Twitter threads, but now you can kind of go on for days on Twitter now. So anyway, I started doing it, and I wrote that, and I posted the microblog. It was about the Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. I don't know if you guys ever read that. And then I retweeted my own shit, and I just said, look, I'm not writing this for you. I'm just trying to prove to myself that I can write, right? And so I think it is important to some degree to do things even if it's not for an audience, right? And to do it for yourself. So it's like, there's a lot of talk about it's not about you, it's about the audience, and I think that's true to a large degree. But like, if you don't like what you're posting, if you don't like what you're doing, then you're gonna burn out really fast. And I've seen that happen countless times. People making content, doing whatever I'm doing it for you. I'm trying to serve, but like, you're bored with it. And I can tell. That's why it's not working. That's why it's not landing.
Yeah. It's like two things can be true at once. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so like it's 100% about, to your point, about the audience, but it's like how you serve it up really matters. And it's like, especially now where like anyone there can hop on a camera, their authenticity is what matters. You can't hide that. So it's hard to be real when you're not doing something that you love, that you care about, that would help younger you, and so, yeah, I think it's a good way to put it. It's like you have to do what matters to you, understanding that the audience needs to get value from it, or there's no reason to, Yeah.
We were jamming on this earlier this morning. It's like you got to combine your heart and your head together. If you're just doing for you and it's heart, it's what's in your soul, and you just want to create, cool. Like, you got a hobby. It's a great hobby. Like, you can go and paint or make music or whatever, never have to release it, and it doesn't have to be a business, but it's a hobby. So as long as you're cool with that, cool. If you're doing it as a business, it has to bring value to people. That's where the head comes in, right? So it's like in that mix, because if you're only doing it for that because your brain tells you to do it, or Inc. magazine says, here are the top 20. You got to start a podcast for 2023, 2024, whatever, right? If that's the only reason why you're doing it, you're going to lose, because people actually love the thing. And for you, it's just a strategy. So if you're going to start a podcast, you don't like talking and you don't like talking to people, like that's a problem. Like, it might be the best marketing strategy, but because your heart's not in it, you're going to fail. So it's in that combination, right? If you love it, but there's no market for it, it's just a hobby. If there's a giant market for it, but you don't love it, you're going to lose, because you're going up against people who love the thing. So it's in that combination of what do you love doing, where there's also an opportunity, combining the heart and the head together. That's where you actually start to win.
Heart and head. No, I like that. And then, so how do you know then, I guess, like, how to find those people? Because I feel like there's a market for really anything. Like, I always tell this story, and I think he was in Genius Network. Jose Pedro, the challenge guy. What's his name?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember.
God, anyway.
I know who you're talking about.
But he was doing a podcast once. He was talking about this woman who made like $160,000 in a 3-week period on a challenge selling a knitting course.
Oh, wow.
Like knitting. Okay. So it's one of those things that like, I think there's a market really for anything. You can turn your hobby into whatever, but you do need the other side of it. Like you do need to be able to think about the market, how you're going to, I'm like in your guys' camera. Anyway.
Yeah, you're talking, so it's fine.
But like you got to figure out what the market is and how to serve that up to them. What you did, Eddie, and I wanted to talk to you about this because I was looking at, what you were doing over on Spotify. I find it incredibly interesting that you didn't put your stuff as a podcast there, but instead it streams. It's like music there.
Yeah, so it's exactly what you're saying. It's evolution. It's both, right? But I started doing this in 2014. I didn't make it a podcast until 2021, and it's the exact same content. I literally take the MP3 from YouTube and put it on the podcast. It's reached millions more people, opened a wider audience. So it's just like
by serving it up differently.
Exactly. The medium.
Are you chopping them up? Like, are they 2-3 minutes, like a normal song when you do it over on Spotify like that?
So I write them all as in part of, we were talking earlier, like part of my evolution has been sort of adapting from 3-minute content to 10-minute, like adjusting with the medium and the algorithms and what's going to reach people. That's so on Spotify, like my artist, my music profile is I think what it's referred to as. Yeah, it's the shorter speeches that sort of replicate a song, that dynamic. The podcasts are between 30 minutes and 3 hours just because of the nature of a podcast.
Yeah. I looked at that and I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Because it's like, again, I like that because I will go into the next one. And so it's really possible for someone literally to hit play on you on Spotify and listen to you all day long.
Yeah.
And just have it in the
album.
background, almost like lo-fi hip hop while you're working and just have it going nonstop versus like YouTube. Again, you can have the visual, and people probably do that, obviously, with your content, probably a ton of just leaving it on as my motivation. I'm going to watch this. But with using like Echo or something like that, you can throw that on Spotify and listen to it all day. So it's kind of brilliant in terms of getting people to again, listen to your stuff all day long. It's kind of brilliant, dude.
Yeah, that's something, that I've learned from Evan that he really preached. It's like be as many places as you can. Like, especially if you're repurposing stuff, it's like, why? There's just so much opportunity that's right in front of us that we don't see. Yeah. That again, like taking the YouTube stuff and making it a podcast is almost 0% more work with, I can't even tell you, exponential upside. So there's so much of that, like right in front of us.
Yeah.
What did you just write down, Raylan?
So something that I thought about earlier, I just wanted to remember was,
okay. Thought you
would you
notes.
watch your own? No, I am taking notes also mentally, but I wrote this down so I didn't forget it. I realized something after our podcast and actually watching your stuff, obviously is yours. I realized I was like, I would never watch my content. And I was like, that's a problem. And I've been doing more of a deep dive, and I'm actually I'm doing the opposite. So like, it's important to be everywhere, but for me right now, I'm actually condensing. I'm like starting to go, I'm going to focus on just 3 mediums right now, for me anyway. And I want to get really good at those mediums and really good at creating content for those mediums. YouTube is number one. And because again, I was watching something, a masterclass I did like maybe a couple weeks ago. And because I had this thought experiment, I'm like, man, would I watch my own shit? Like as a potential client, as a fan, whatever, would I watch it? And I got through like a minute of it, and I was like, this is garbage. I turned it off. And it's not, I'm not even saying that from the perspective of like you don't like your own voice, not even from that place.
What were you watching though? Like an interview that you were doing?
No,
or?
it was a masterclass that I did. So it was like, the thought leadership shit that you hate that I do. So it's like I do.
Do I hate it?
Should we unpack
about
that?
this?
No, so what happened, Eddie, and I said this in the last podcast or whatever, but so I met him and he's like, basically he was saying, you can do the thought leadership, like talking the camera, whatever. Okay. It's going to take you forever though. And everyone does it, And then I was like, shit, I'm doing that right now. And, but it's nothing wrong with it. So what I do is Monday is podcast. So this will release on like on Monday on YouTube. And then Wednesday is usually like a masterclass. So it's me like coaching on something. And then Friday is like a workshop and whatever. But those Wednesday things I was watching, I was like, this isn't good. Like, I mean it from a place of like, you could tell that I'm riffing, which is not inherently bad, I guess. It's just like, you could tell I'm not prepared. So this leads me kind of to the question of like, what's the conversation of like quantity versus quality here? Because there's Mr. Beast, for example, that goes and says, you know, you could make way more money if you actually focused on you did one video a month and you made it freaking good. You would make way more money than if you did, you know, 5 a week, right? So, but his version of that is YouTube's about quality versus quantity. I mean, what do you guys think about that? Because, I mean, you guys are, to me, the business side of Mr. Beast. Like, there's Mr. Beast over here, which is entertainment. And then it's like, you guys are like, no, we're going to make money and we're going to monetize on YouTube. So it's a little bit of both.
Well, Mr. Beast makes a ton of money, but
it's only from you know, and his burgers and shit, I guess.
There's a lot there. But,
yeah.
But to that question, what do you got, Eddie? I'll go next.
Yeah, I think it depends on the season. So, like, I agree with you. Like, when I was starting out, YouTube was my thing primarily. I wouldn't create for other platforms. Like, I would, like, reuse some YouTube stuff. We're talking minimal time. Because, yeah, when you have... what's the word? I don't want to say dominance, but maybe authority. When you have authority on a particular platform, it's easier then to sort of diversify onto others, but you have to work to get yourself there. Mm-hmm. And that takes a lot of time, a lot of focus. It's winning on YouTube's a lot different than winning on Twitter or Facebook. And so to understand that at a deep level, especially when you're one person in your room with a microphone, 100%. But then, you know, as you evolve and you have the resources and the capacity, it becomes a numbers game. And like, you know, the messages that I give and Evan gives, like, they can be chopped up and served in a lot of different ways, a lot of different places, and be helpful to people in different contexts. So, yeah, I remember sort of mentally making that shift. I don't remember what point, how many subscribers or what it was, but it was like, okay, like, you have some resources now to invest back into what you're doing. You can get some help. You can take this stuff and start pushing outwards instead of just up with YouTube. And had seen a lot of value in that.
So you kind of went and you found your way of doing it, and then you were like, oh, I can get more people, and now it's like you branched out.
Right. Because a lot of people ask me that, like, when they're starting something, you know, I don't know how to be in all these places, and it's like, well, choose the one that's most conducive to your value set. Yeah. You know, if you're witty and you have quick thoughts, like, maybe it's Twitter. If you love to sit down and talk for 3 hours, it's a podcast. If you're, you know, love creating videos, it's YouTube. So find your place and kill in that place, crush in that place until, you know, you've created that authority and you've added value to, you know, a group of people. And then maybe, you know, don't put the cart before the horse, in other words. Yeah. But again, there's just, you almost hate to say it, but at some point, quantity does become incribly valuable.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
So it was a pivot.
Because it's funny is I think I did it backwards in that, not that I just had a different journey. In that I went omnipresent first. Like, when my first month of being an online entrepreneur, I didn't really have an offer. Yeah, I did. I was doing sales training, I think, at that time. But I went everywhere first, and I just repurposed everywhere. But I think in doing that, what I ended up doing, and this is the benefit of it, is I found out where I liked to be. Through doing it, because I didn't know. I was important. I was like, I don't know if I like, you know, TikTok or, you know, whatever. Like, I was like, I've never been there, so I'll try it. So I tried everything. Like, I was on Medium, Be Real. I tried, that was the most recent one, but Twitter, like, every single platform I like tried, because I was like, yeah, I just want to test it out. And now I'm in a place where I'm like, I'm gonna be there and I'll push it out to those platforms, but I'm like, I'm creating for YouTube now. Which was, before it was like I was thinking more short term and I was thinking more short form, so I didn't really care almost about the long form, if that makes sense. But Evan, what about you?
I think the quantity leads to the quality.
Yeah.
You know, like, how do you get
reps.
Good at something? Yeah, if you don't put in the reps. So the more you do, the better you get. And Mr. Beast is a gangster. I'd be super curious to see what he would do if he was in thought leadership. Because it's a much more entertaining product that he does, and there's moments, especially the giving stuff, like curing blindness, all that is aspirational. But I'm not learning in thought leadership, right? So I'm not doing a pod. You know, he's been on a lot of podcasts. I'd love to see how he would host a podcast for an hour, because in thought leadership, it's more about the quality of thought. Because I'm going to listen to Raylan, and sure, you might get me hyped, but like, I'm going to learn something that's going to go improve my life. In those scenarios, the quality is the quality of conversation, quality of thought, not production quality.
Yeah.
So that's where most people get hung up is, you know, we were talking earlier today, he went and made this video out in Utah and spent all this money, and it like just didn't do well compared to a simple video where he's just talking direct to camera, because it's quality of thought, because the speech was better when you deliver it in your house.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean that you can't keep getting better and improving, but there's not a massive difference. If we're here doing this here, or we were in some other studio, or we did it at the Super Bowl arena or whatever, like there's some wow factor, I guess, short term, but then it's more about the quality of conversation. So how do you have great quality conversation? Well, you have to put in the reps to get better at it, right? Do you even know what quality looks like, right?
Yeah.
Like Mr. Beast has put in so many reps. I guarantee you, like if Mr. Beast could put out 2 videos a month instead of 1 video a month that were of similar quality, he would be even bigger.
Yeah.
Right? But he can't, because he has so much production costs that go into everything, but he knows where to put it. Where would you put it? What's higher quality? Where would you put it?
Yeah. What does that even mean?
That was deep. Yeah.
Like where would you even put higher quality into your current content? Like really, it's you. Because if you suck, who cares what this microphone is?
Yeah.
And if the microphone is,
If it's super clear, now you're going to sound shitty more clearly.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, so what's quality in a podcast? It's not we have a beautiful setup. This team here is awesome. We got lights, we got 3 cameras on us, and all these microphones and all that. Cool. Like we'd have to hear them. If like we can't hear Eddie, you can't see me, that would be a problem. But does it really add a ton? If we had 6 cameras in here instead of 3, are you now a higher quality podcast? Like it's such a miniature improvement after the bare basics, that the real quality is you, and then the guests that you pull the story out of.
Well, what I'm hearing from Eddie though too is like my journey, and for those that are watching this, like I hope they understand that I have a whopping 220. Actually, since the last time we talked, 220 now. What's up?
What were you at the beginning?
I think like 200, maybe.
Let's go.
Nice.
Dude, 10% growth in 3 weeks. We'll take that.
we're getting there. But you know what I realized, again, from hearing your speeches and then obviously watching your stuff, I was like, oh, I can do a way better job of actually preparing. So quality for me is actually really easy. It's just I got to prepare better in terms of like the thought leadership videos I do. The podcast, I did a little test today because some feedback I got from Evan the last podcast, like I could tell you're super prepared and thank you, but like this should be more about you learning and like the audience learning. So actually, interestingly enough, I prepared less for this one, so we'll see how this one works out. But for that, like again, when I watch your stuff, I'm like, fuck, he's writing word for word those things, and there's like it's very evident to me that you actually are. Every word is chose wisely for a certain thing. And I was like, oh, I'm just fucking turn on a camera and just talking shit. And I'm like, I don't know. I got to find a balance, I think.
Yeah, like, because Grant Cardone would look at what I'm doing and be like, like, why?
Yeah.
You can be so much quicker off the cuff, but like, I assume he'd say that. But like, I look at the sort of artful, emotive side of what I do. It's like I want to think of it more as a music track.
I was gonna say you're an artist, so like it makes sense that you approach it like I'm a Neanderthal. I used to get punched in the head for a living, so like for me it's a little bit So
well, in
like,
fairness, you have a natural proclivity to like you're good at this. Like if this is your second time doing that, that's pretty amazing.
Oh no, I've been doing the podcast for a while, but this is the second time in person.
Okay. I was gonna say, damn. But yeah, like I write it out because like I want like when the crescendo comes up, I want the cadence to increase. So I'm sort of careful with how I speak it. But
oh shit.
Here's the thing though, for being prepared, like if we're gonna, so we haven't done a podcast together, so that's different.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna come on, if I'm coming on your channel, you're gonna talk about YouTube stuff. How many podcasts have I done talking about YouTube stuff?
A million.
A million.
Yeah.
Like it's not quite, but a lot, right?
Yeah.
What are the questions? If you're not prepared, what are the questions that you're going to ask me? The same 14 questions I get asked on every other podcast, which is fine. I'm happy to answer them, but you're getting the same answers as everybody else. Your podcast is not unique or different, right?
Yeah.
Now, you might have different charisma and different energy and more banter or whatever, but like what's the real difference in the content that's coming up? Not a heck of a lot. If you watched all those interviews, and then you knew what my answers, because my answers aren't going to change, really, So if you knew my answers to those questions, where did I miss? Like, where would you go deeper? What didn't make sense? If you've done the research to know those other interviews, now I don't know how many interviews Eddie has done. So, catching somebody on the first podcast that's different. But if you knew all of those questions and answers and knew how to respond, then you can take it deeper. And now you have unique content that nobody else has.
Yeah.
For me, I don't care. It's just I love being here, answering questions, right? But if the podcast host, if you can mix that, Like if you're so great at getting to know people and off the cuff, but then you can match it with actually knowing their story, then it makes you unstoppable. Like even the fact you knew about his Spotify thing, and that's interesting and curious to you how you get it streaming. If you didn't know anything about him, it's like, hey Eddie, like just I don't know, welcome man. Tell us about yourself, right?
Yeah. I think because too, I actually don't. Not to say that I don't care. I do care about the business stuff. I do care about YouTube and retention. All those things are interesting to me. I'm also more fascinated about like the story, like how many fuck ups have you had? Why are you still doing this? like that's the stuff that's interesting to me. So like it is important for me to ask. Again, I keep saying like we're gonna get to YouTube because I think it's important because I always think too like there may be someone that it's a very small chance, but don't know who Evan Carmichael is and happens to fall upon you through my thing. And it's like, oh, that could be the thing. So I think it's important. But also, I'm just way more fascinated with like, because again, I tell the story a lot, but whenever I meet people that I view as like super high level and whatever thing, like I was fortunate in that I was a professional MMA fighter, and I've met like Randy Couture, I've met Cain Velasquez, like the biggest names in the sport. I met Mike Tyson. That I did shit my pants a little bit when I met him. His hand is way bigger than you think it would be, and super nice guy. Anyway, I met all these people, and same feeling I have in business, which is I was like, oh my God, it's Randy Couture, and then I meet him, and then you go, oh, he's just a person. Like, oh, you get scared too when you fight, even though you're at this huge level, UFC champ, like. Oh, you still get scared, so do I. Oh, we're all human. And so now I'm fascinated in the business side, the same questions of like, hey, when's the last time that you got nervous? And how did you deal with it? How did you overcome it? And so I guess now since we're talking about this, like for you, Eddie, like when is that last time that you were like, I don't know if I could do this, but you did it anyway?
Oh my God, all the time. Like, yeah, every day. Yeah, seriously, every time I go live. I mean, I was nervous to go live this morning with Evan. Like, it's good. That means you're alive. You're pushing yourself, a little bit beyond where you were the day before. But like, it's been one thing after another of like, you never completely become unafraid of what you're doing. The nervousness, like it's just, if it subsides, I feel like you're doing the wrong thing. For me, the big bridge was, I want to say like maybe 2017, 2018, where like I decided in my head, a little bit into 2019, it was a long stretch. I decided in my head, I'm like, this is what I'm going to do, period. And I was exploring with like different topics and stuff. Like just doing like spoken word stuff, just all kinds of things. And the channel was like tanking. And so that to me, like, talk about nervousness and just feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, like waking up every day and being like, even though your ego is just getting the shit kicked out of it, do something, one thing, and like coming out of that in roughly 2020 and like finally feeling that like sort of upward slope was a really, really cool thing. But it was like a different variation of the same thoughts. You're always moving forward. You're always a little bit.
You just package it differently? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think some of it was exponential. Some of it was working with Evan on the actual YouTube, like, the marketing side of things, like the titling and thumbnails, stuff that seems minimal, but it's not.
No, not at all.
The longevity of the speeches I was putting out, stuff like that.
So then from 14 to 17, is that when you were still working at your corporate job?
No,
how are you getting by at that point?
Yeah, like enough, like making enough. But like there's a mental thing that like so a little bit of ad revenue, and then pretty quick out of the gate, like there's companies that are reaching out to like write speeches or create videos for a product launch or whatever it was. And so like during that time, I was always made enough through those things where like when revenue started to get low, thank whoever our maker is, someone would call and say, hey, I need a speech, and it just always seemed to work out. But yeah, it was, I mean, to say it was not stressful wouldn't be true. I mean, it was for a long time.
So is part of, in terms of like making money, right? So obviously you're making money from YouTube now, right? And probably, do you make money from Spotify?
Yeah.
Okay, so you make money from that. In terms of like what you do for others, are you still writing speeches? Is that like the other side of the house and how you are actually monetizing?
I've been trying to minimize that and really like go all in.
You want to go all in on the creation.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
And that's not to say maybe later it changes, but like I've been learning to say no to a lot of stuff, and YouTube, the podcast, Spotify, like to really win in that arena, because that opens a lot of doors.
That's so it's interesting because I started on platforms so that way I could do more of what I love to do, which is coach and consult. And then there's people like you, they're like, I just happen to do that to make some money so I can do what I really love to do, which is like full-time creation. So that's, I don't know, that's interesting. Because you're a weird hybrid. I feel like you love both.
Both what?
Like the consulting sides, like I said, like there's people who exist on platforms so they can get more coaching or get more opportunities that way. And then there's people that like do the coaching and then service-based stuff so they can eventually go to the point where they're full-time creation. You, I feel like, are in the middle. Like you do both. And you enjoy both.
I'm on a mission, dude. I want to solve the world's biggest problem.
Yeah.
People don't believe in themselves enough. And so like that's the lens through which I see the world. And that then I think content at scale is the way to be able to start to have an impact, because I'm not going to talk to everybody one-on-one. And so that's why I try to create with my YouTube channel. But then I also want, like in you getting your message out to the world, it helps solve the mission too. Mm-hmm. So the more I can help a Raylan or any of the other people that I've helped out, and Eddie, like Eddie and Raylan will reach people that I can't reach. Mm-hmm. Your message, your voice, your style, your way of communicating is different than me. But if I can, help Eddie, I gave Eddie a few suggestions and channel starts cranking. Yeah. Like I'm half of 1% of that success, right? It's like, it helps spread my mission out there to the world too. So it's more, I don't care about YouTube, I don't care about the little platforms either.
It's a medium.
It's like I'm on a mission, dude, and whatever's going to help me go off and accomplish the mission.
How do you, especially when you get to the level at which you're at, right? Your time is already incredibly valuable. I mean, it's limited. How do you say no to shit? So like I had a conversation with somebody, one of our clients, and he hit me up. He's like, yeah, I got a really cool opportunity to help somebody down. Like, okay, cool. Tell me about it. And he's like, I know it's kind of like a charity case, but it might turn into something, whatever. He's at a point now though, that he's not making, like he's making good money, but it's not where he wants to be at. And so it was this question of, hey, quick question. Are you in your mind, are you $1 million consultant or are you a 501c3? Like, which one are you? And the advice I kind of gave him was, and obviously he replied with, I'm $1 million consultant. So then it went to, well, you can still help that person, but have them go on Riverside with you, record the session, right? So that way you can not just help that one person, but you can help, however many watch the video with that time. So again, with you, like you are super generous with your time, obviously helping people like me and whoever. But when do you say no to, like, how do you say no to shit? Yeah.
We just might need to keep track of the time. That clock stopped.
No, I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah. So no, it's not. It stopped a while ago. It's been broke.
Oh, okay.
We're at 11.
Yeah. It's tough how to say no. The thing that I have done that's helped the most is I schedule out my calendar. So I have different days for different things. So Monday is my mentoring day with my team. We got 50 people on the team and I'm spending time mentoring them. Tuesday is my YouTube content day. Wednesday is my project day. Thursday is my public facing day we're doing this on a Thursday. We're recording. It's public facing day, right? Friday is my CEO day. Saturday is my fun day. Sunday is my family admin day. And that happens 85% of the time. Mm-hmm. Then there's some randomness. Like Eddie comes to town. I invited Eddie here. I was like, hey, I'm in Arizona. He was born in Arizona. And so he's here for a couple days. And I'm putting together some fun couple days for us to do. Meanwhile, my productivity is going to tank. Yeah. But it's more for fun than anything else, right? Yeah. Like, I don't know. What's the ROI of being here? I don't know. What's the ROI of spending time with Eddie? I'm not running that calculation of like $1 million consultant versus whatever the employee number is. I'm Canadian. We know the same thing.
Oh, nonprofit organization.
Sure, right? So, but I'm not running that calculation. It's just injecting a little bit of fun. I get it. That makes sense because most of my day, most of my week is that.
Most people when they first, but this is the problem though. He's just starting out. Like I think there's a level, I could be wrong, but there's a level at which you can afford to do those things. And when you're first starting out, there's so many people around you when you first start they're going to take that energy because it's free advice, which is nothing wrong with it. Again, go to Twitter Spaces or go to whatever platform and give out free coaching. I do it all the time, but it's because I can affect more change in people in a grand scale, right? Put it in a YouTube video, whatever. The problem is I talk to a lot of people that are like, yeah, I helped this person, I helped this. I'm like, great. Talk to them 3 months later. Yeah, I still haven't made a client. I still haven't done this. Yeah, because you're not willing to say, I'm going to help you. Here's the thing. Show me you execute. You're going to make some money from this idea. Come back to me, and then we're going to get one-on-one started. Like, but I think the reason why, not him in particular, but other people do this is a fear of saying, this is my value, and you're going to pay me the money.
I will say when it comes to, I'm going to give credit where it's due, like purpose-driven mindset. So back in 2015, I emailed Evan. I had like 30,000. I'm not sure if you know this or I've told you this. I was looking at the email the other day, like 30,000 subs. And I was like, hey, just saw, I think you were on a live. I'm like, I saw your live. You know, I think the world of you would be great to chat. He just goes, sure, find time on my calendar. And that meant everything to me. And so like one of the things that I think is cool and I love working with them is because it reminds me like that what you do should revolve around that purpose. Like you can see it. And so if things come in that maybe are less in line with what really matters to you, it makes it easier to dismiss that and spend more time scaling your purpose to the world. To your point, as long as you're not in need of, sometimes you have to do what you have to in order to do what you want to, you know? But yeah, like when you have that North Star, it makes things easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just vibe test for me for whatever reason. I don't remember what you sent and I didn't know his channel, but that happens a lot. I mean, I've been people's first podcast guests and then they never released a podcast, you know? Like it doesn't always work out. It's not always a success story. Yeah. Sometimes it just goes nowhere, right? When I met you at Joe Polish's book launch, okay, cool guy. Like, how can I help? But I don't know who you are. I don't know what. Maybe we become best friends for life and jiu-jitsu partners forever, and you know, or start 18 joint ventures together, or maybe I never see you again. Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I also don't put so much gravitas on like this thing has to go off and do something. But it's happened enough over the years of great things. Just by putting out the karma, like great things end up coming back. Huge opportunities end up coming to me. But it's just vibes. I say no to things I shouldn't say no to, and I say yes to things I shouldn't say yes to. And it confuses the. But
in the long run, your batting average is good.
Yeah.
But I think that comes with time, though. Like you've said no to a lot of things, you said yes to a lot of things, and over time, the vibe you can pick up on it because you've done it forever, right? Like.
But I think at the beginning, I think like that's maybe more the thing to hone in on at the early stage of your career, because for me now to say no to something or to say yes to something, there's a much bigger opportunity cost. Like time is worth more. So to say, hey Eddie, come on out and spend these 2 days with me, you know, or to be here, the other stuff we're doing, like I could be doing something else, and the opportunity cost is actually much higher, right? Versus when you're first starting out. I think at the beginning, you also need to get to know more people. You never know who might be a client. You never know who might be your next investor. It's just hanging out in the right circles, I think, would be like increased randomness in the right circles, as opposed to trying to be like super strategic at the beginning with the people that you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's partly of the problem is like, I think back to even when I first started, and part of my resentment towards like giving out free shit a lot. I don't mean giving out free shit. I mean like the time. I don't mind group sessions of like, I'm doing a workshop for free. I love those. I don't mind. Again, I mentioned Twitter Spaces. That's like one of my favorite ways to do it because you can just bring people up one at a time, and you just get like in an hour, you can coach up like 30 people. You feel really great. Like it's amazing. What I'm talking about is like, hey, I'm giving you 10 sessions with me for nothing. Like I used to do that because I think it's important when you first start because one, you're figuring out your technique in terms of like coaching, right? Like how am I actually doing this? And that's different. I'm talking about people that like, again, who already are on the verge of making money and they do it so often and you start to get resentful. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense, which is do that, but do it in different groups of people you don't even know, because then you are more likely to run into someone that it could turn into something. Versus I think people stay in their little holes, in their little like pockets of people that probably aren't going anywhere anyway because they've been in the same spot, and then they go why am I not making money? You didn't leave. Like, you know?
And dude, especially people need to earn the round two. You know? Like you're giving 10 things away for free, that person better be just, and they're not paying you. Yeah, there better be some kind of massive otherworldly ROI to you that makes sense to be there because they make you feel super special or something. I could have brought Eddie anywhere. Why bring him back to you?
Yeah.
Because I loved our first session together. Right. So like I'll give away a lot the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The second time it's like, okay, well, what did you do about it?
Yeah.
How was the first interaction? Maybe the first interaction sucked. Then you don't go back. Right. Like I gave you, the genesis of our relationship was that first meeting.
You gave me advice.
And then you go and you start like implementing it, and you're teaching people and you're making videos about it. You know how many people I give advice to and they don't do anything on? Like that's going to be most people. Cool. It's like, I love you. Amazing. But like Raylan's off he's talking about it. So then, yeah, I'll come on your podcast. But if you didn't do anything,
yeah,
I mean, I still might because of the family connection that we've got. But apart from that, it's like, if that wasn't there, like, no, like, did you do anything on the first thing we talked about, Raylan?
And maybe that's like, I don't know, maybe that's because my background, whatever. But I won't even reach out to people unless I execute on that thing. Like the only reason why I even said anything to you about the podcast because I knew I executed. So I knew when we talked and you asked me, hey, did you go do that thing? I could say, yes, I did. And here's what's happening so far. But also I know that from, again, this goes back to my old MMA days. There's people when I first started training, Jimmy Varner out of here in Arizona. He's here from Arizona as well, but he was a UFC champ, not UFC, WEC champ and UFC champ, doesn't matter. He pulled me in his wing when I first came in. Like I wasn't that good when I first came to the gym. He's like, I'm taking you under my wing. But his rule, and I think a lot of athletes' rule was always, hey, if I'm going to show you something, show me you doing it. Otherwise, don't come talk to me. It was a little bit different, right? Because it's combat sports, but that was the rule. It's like, I'm going to put time into you, and I'm at this level. You need that. The reason I do it though, and why you would do it in the sports world is because it's a high tide raises all ships. If I work on you in terms of jiu-jitsu or whatever, you get to my level or better, it makes me better. So I'm going to help you out. But again, I think there is a balance is what I'm saying. And I understand like the importance of serving and following your purpose. I just feel for people that do it so much they don't make fucking money. And then I'm like, I'm glad you're living your purpose and you're doing – it goes back to what you said, the mind and the heart, right? Like that's really great. You're living your life directed by your heart. But like, listen, you're still living at home with your parents. Like, what are we doing? You know, you got to make money somehow, some way. You know, I don't know. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Eddie, what are your thoughts?
I'm with you, man. I think there's got to be some level of pragmatism. We were just talking about like for a lot of creators that I know, it was something that took me a while to get beyond. It's like you look at money as, I don't want to say a negative thing, but as like
a lot of them do though. Yeah,
it's a big thing, and so like shifting from no, it's not negative. It's not bad. It's something that you need to be able to reinvest into your mission so that you can help as many people as possible. Yeah. And so that shifted for me. Like, especially like, my focus was on building a brand. I didn't really care as long as I could survive. Like, it's like, I just want to build this bad boy up, right? Especially knowing down the road too, like if you have X amount of attention, it's easy to monetize, right? Mm-hmm. So like, that's sort of a part of it, but yeah, it's.
Did you know you wanted to build a brand even in the early stages, or did the creation comes first and then you go, oh, I should probably build a brand? Like, what came first?
I saw them as together, like linked.
Yeah.
Yeah. One message, one idea. Just kind of.
This is gonna sound like left field, but you're creative. Are you into NFTs at all in that whole world?
I skipped that whole thing,
okay.
Yeah, and I'm not sure yet if I'll regret it. There's still time, but yeah, like.
Well, here's the only reason why. So I have a friend, Brian Fanzo. I had him on the podcast, but he's really interesting because I got really put off by NFTs because of Twitter, and I was like, this sounds like a big scheme, like whatever. But he is interesting because he's a public speaker. Professional speaker. I don't know the difference. He told me the difference, but I forgot. And then he also though is a coach, and he's in this NFT world, and so he can bridge the gap. And so there's this really interesting thing he told me about, and I'm actually in the summer because apparently he's working with this company that's going to make it a little bit easier to like mint NFTs and actually create your own NFT, because right now it's like super complicated and it costs a lot of money. But anyway, so one of the things that got me interested was the gamification side of it and the rewarding side. Like for me, like an earlier start, I was like, I would love something to offer my, audience, the 220 subscribers, those people mean the world to me because, like, yo, they've been rocking with me since the beginning, I want to give them something. So that's where NFTs come in. It's like, hey, if you get this, you can come to other things for free, do whatever. Grant Cardone's kind of doing something similar to this. And then also the gamification in terms of the coaching, the thought leadership. So it's, hey, you came to my workshop, my webinar, here's this NFT, and now you can get into this other thing that nobody else can, right? So that conversation was super interesting to me because, again, he's a coaching mind and he understands like thought leadership. So he applied it in terms of that. So once I heard him talk about it, I was like, oh, NFTs could be actually a little bit more interesting, especially too, like on the Spotify side or even whatever, like on your YouTube channel. It's like, hey, you can track now who watches what. So you have a different NFT for like your motivation, like your playlist. It's just, you have what was that playlist you created a while back? The music one?
Yes, Believe playlist.
Okay, Believe playlist. So imagine you have a Believe playlist NFT, and then you can see different people who listen to different things, and it kind of gives you a different metric. I don't know. Again, I'm not selling you guys on NFTs. I don't know shit about NFTs still, but like,
well, let me make the case. Like, so it's not a question of if and am I too late? Like it'll everybody will be creating it. It'll be like having a bank account now. Like you will everything will be on NFTs. So you're definitely not too late. This is the like very, very early version. So let's play this out. Like, why is this so important? Even look at all the things that happen in AI now, right? And have you seen like the voice duplication and video duplication? Yeah. Okay, so now then that's early stage, right? Now imagine Raylan goes and becomes president of the United States. Let's go. RD. We got, it's happening.
Cabinets.
Right? It's happening.
I'm
Canadian. I can't, so I'll be special advisor to something.
Yeah.
I'll be
to my YouTube channel.
Special counsel of a Believe or something. Imagine how many copycats you're going to have, amount of people saying how much you love pornography and how you love, like all of these like insane things. They're going to make up all sorts of stuff, right? So how do you know? How do you know what's real?
Yeah.
Well, it has to be minted on the blockchain. Like it'll just be like you're the original creator, and that's so every piece of content will be an NFT.
I didn't think about it from the perspective of AI and NFT. So the minting you're saying is like, hey, no, I created this. Yeah. AI didn't.
Yeah. This is the real Eddie. Will the real Eddie Pinero please stand up? Like, this is where it's going to come from. Everything Eddie ever makes in the future will be on the blockchain and NFT and verifiable that it actually came. Yes, it came from Eddie and not from them, because there'll be a million. Like, the cost to produce all this stuff is going to zero. So there'll be a million fake Eddies for one Eddie. We think of all of the fake stuff happening now. Like, I don't know if you get people in your chat or comments saying, WhatsApp me for whatever, all the impersonation. It's just getting started. So imagine the cost of AI and duplication, all that goes to zero. How do I tell the difference between Eddie and everybody else in the actual content creation? Everything that Eddie makes, every tweet, every video, every MP3 will be an NFT that now Eddie doesn't have to sell them, right? But it'll be something like, this has the proof that I made this. That's where everything is going. Right? Anything that is digital will be NFT'd, right? Now, we're not there yet. We're nowhere close yet. Someone's like, am I too late? You're too late on like all the early stupid stuff, right? Some people collect it for the art. Cool. Some people, there is some value attached to it, right? You get to come to VCon, or you get to be a guest on my podcast, or I'll coach you for a year or whatever. So those are early days worth playing with just to understand. But to say like, I'm not into NFTs, I don't know if I should be, like, you will be. And whether they're called NFTs in 10 years or something else, that idea of having the blockchain and it being proven that this is a Raylan product or an Eddie, it is going to happen. So you will get into it, and it will be easier too. Like, it is insane and difficult, and setting up a wallet, and it's like it's a mess. But like anything else at the beginning is a mess, and then it becomes infinitely easier.
Yeah, it used to be hard to get on the internet.
Yeah, everybody, like everybody's on the internet. Everybody has a bank account. There are some strange people who don't. I don't believe in bank account. I don't. I want to live off grid. Like, fine, those people will not have NFTs, but 99.9% of us will.
Yeah, so I even think about like for you go and you do a speech somewhere, right? Like, if you were there, like you're a member of the YouTube channel and you were there, here's this NFT, and then you just stack. Like, just a good way to like showcase like, hey, I'm a really big fan of Eddie.
Right.
Then also as coaching, because how many people have you come across that's like, oh, yo, I know, especially with someone like Joe Polish. Oh yeah, I know Joe. I hear that so much, and then I'll ask Eunice and go, hey, does this person know? No, I don't know that person, right? Well, even that in itself of like, yeah, no, I know Evan. I met Evan here and I did this. Well, imagine though, once again, that's where the NFT comes in. I used to be, I went to his coaching program, whatever. Show me your NFT, right? Like you graduated from the coaching program or you went to this, here's the NFT. This is proof that I was there. Because there's also a lot of people that put on their website, hey, I've spoken at all these major stages. I've done all this, I've done that. And it's like the NFT thing, it makes it interesting because now it starts to weed out people that are like, full of shit.
Yeah, so like hearing this, this is a great 101, by the way. Like I totally get the value of making things verifiable, especially with AI. Like that voice stuff is scary. That's craziness. But the monetary side of things, I'm not sure I quite understand.
I don't get it either. Like you noticed, I didn't say anything about you making money as an NFT creator. Right, I don't know anything. Like for me, the only thing I'm thinking about is how can I reward the early stage people that like
most of those people don't have wallets yet, so you can't. And also like finding out who those first 200 people are, YouTube sucks at giving you that kind of information. So that's a harder thing to be able to track. How to make money? Well, there's so many different ways, right? I mean, there's the ones who sell the art and you're buying it just for the art. Like you might buy that hat or you might buy a hoodie or whatever, or a painting on the wall. You're just paying for the art.
To say that you have it, right? Which is why you don't have the JPEG. You have the actual.
Yeah, you own that thing. You own that piece of art. So there are art collectors, and this is just digital art. So I'm less excited by that because I can't appreciate art as I look at a painting, take a picture of the Mona Lisa, great. It's like, but I can't. I'll rush through the Louvre in a day, and people are like, what? Like, how did you not spend 3 weeks there, right? Yeah. I don't appreciate it enough yet. But for the value, that's what's interesting, right? I mean, Gary has sold more in NFTs than in his speaking and everything else combined, right? So it's the art, sure, but it's the utility that's connected to it. So if you were to launch a line of your own NFTs right now, it could be for access to you, for one-on-one coaching with you, to be a guest on your podcast, to get access to your course. You know, you get the course and it costs $500. I don't know what your course sells for. But then they also get the NFT that then gives them whatever. It's usually some kind of access bonuses they can throw in. The problem is most people are still not on, they don't have a wallet.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how many people, 10% of people, 8%, I forget what the number is. And most people don't know what a wallet is. It's super foreign to them. And so they don't, like, even if you could give something, there's a lot of education has to happen for them to even get on it, which is what like Gary and then Tom Bilyeu, they've been like educating at least the entrepreneur market of how to do it, which then makes it easier for all the next generation people to come out and do.
It's the onboarding part right now that's incredibly
it's
difficult.
a pain. Yeah.
You know?
It's a giant pain.
I like I love the idea because we were even playing around with like, so, you know, I have this coaching program for early stage online coaches, right? $97 a month is like nothing. So, but I only want to do like 100 people a year. That sounds like, anyway, it's 100 people, right? It's a really tight knit community. But so the idea I had was, all right, we have 100 NFTs, and then this is, you're know about this more than me. So if I'm using the wrong terminology, correct me. But essentially, it's like I only mint 100 of them, and then when somebody's like, oh, I'm good now, they're gonna recommend somebody. We're gonna burn that NFT. They get another NFT that says, hey, I went through this and I was a part of this community. So it's verified. Like they tell anybody they were a part of the Elevated Coach Academy. But now that goes back to my wallet. I can give it to somebody else. So we only have 100 and that makes the value or whatever go up. But for me, it's nice to go, it's verified that you are a part of this community. Like, so anyway, in terms of like coaching thought leadership, like I was kind of like, I'm not even looking at it until my buddy, so shout out to Fanzo. But he kind of put me on and educated me. He goes, no, you're looking at it wrong. Like, oh, yeah, okay. This is interesting. So I don't know. But on the other thing, too, anyway, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
No.
What people are doing around memberships is instead of burning it, you have 100 people and it costs $500 a month or $97 a month, right? It wouldn't be monthly anymore. It'd be like a one-time fee. So it's going to cost you $5,000 to get the NFT and then get access to the course. Yeah. when they're done with it, they can then sell it.
Yeah. So
And
now they're making some money.
they're making money off of their
Yeah.
thing. And what's beautiful about how they've lined it up is you can then take a cut of everything that's sold forever.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So now you're taking 10% off of everything that is then sold and resold, which is great for artists.
Oh, wow.
Because if he makes a speech for somebody, and then that, you know, that's a one-time commission,
Yeah.
right? The speech might not be a great example. If you make like a painting or something, you sell it, but then you become famous or whatever. That person sells it, then that person sells it, and that
Passive income.
you make zero along the way. Where here you're taking whatever you set the price. You want a 10% royalty, then anything the creator gets 10% forever
No
of
matter what,
every
yeah.
transaction that happens on that NFT. So you keep the membership. It's still only 100 people. It's going to get more and more exclusive as people want in, and people will say, "Hey, can I buy your thing?" And now it's not $500; it's 5,000 or 10,000 or 15,000, and you're taking cut all along the way. And the people who join your course then also make money because they can sell their NFT after too.
So what I liked about it too is 'cause, again, my friend challenged me a bit because I go, well, no, here's the problem with that is like I want it to be $97. Like I want it to be for the beginners. And he goes, why do you get to decide how much value is associated with your community? It's not up to you. If somebody buys it for $997 for the year, has the NFT, and then turns around and someone's willing to buy it for $5,000, why do you get to decide that? They're deciding that the community is worth more now. And I was like, again, that's something that I never really considered. The NFT world, now that I'm learning more about it, it's kind of making me kind of think differently about like the business. But also, I got to ask you, it's kind of a silly question. We mentioned courses. Are people buying courses still? Like, is that like a thing still? Because like for me, it's like just put it on fucking YouTube. But
So the courses are definitely still a thing. The benefit of a course versus YouTube is it's all put together in one area. It's sequential, and you're taking me through a process. And there's usually a level of access and community that you don't get from a YouTube video.
Okay, yeah.
So if it's like, how do I get started on YouTube? If that's a course, right?
Yeah.
Or how do I get started as a coach or whatever, right? What you teach. Cool. There's a bunch of videos that are out there. And you could also make a bunch of videos. If you post your Wednesday master classes every week, you're teaching people how to, if somebody really did not value their time at all, they could just go and watch all those videos and probably learn 90% of what you might throw in a course anyway. For people who value the convenience of having it be in a course step by step with modules
And the accountability.
and homework, plus access to you because you're going to be in there training, plus community with each other, right? Then that really amps up the value of having a course, because the information alone is not enough typically for most people to move them. It's the packaging, the accountability, the community, and the access that helps people get results. And courses are just one way to package that up, but the course business isn't going anywhere.
yeah, I don't know. Eddie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, people pay for the convenience of aggregation and having all that stuff. Because to your point, a lot of it is on YouTube, but I do think they go hand in hand because, if you're not giving and adding value on YouTube, you haven't earned that credibility that someone might say, okay, well, let's take a deeper dive. Let's get, the full soup to nuts in one place, the access, whatever it may be. So like they're inextricably linked, in my opinion. Maybe not YouTube specifically, but something else out there.
Yeah, I could see it for the accountability side of it and the community side. I just always get curious about course. I never built a course. I think I had a course at one point, but it was more so about the program. It was like you come and you work with me once a week in this group, and then if you need it, here's this thing of me kind of talking about the similar thing, but more structured. And the course was attached to the program, but like I wasn't selling the course separate because it was like but I was also starting out, and I go back and forth. All right, YouTube. How do I get good at YouTube? All right, so one of the things I've been doing is like I'm focusing right now, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm focusing only right now about it seems way more simple than I thought it was. To win on YouTube, get people to click on your shit and have them watch it. Like it just seems pretty easy to me, okay? The thing with the thumbnail though, I'm at like a 3% click-through right now. It was 1. Okay, so
Let's go.
We're getting better.
Let's go, RD. Let's
and
go.
so I'm going to tell you my strategy, and I want you to tell me if it sucks or not. So, in this is not a good example because you guys like, are pretty awesome. But let's say I was a little like consultant out of Idaho. I'm interviewing for a podcast. If I happen to mention someone big, David Goggins, whoever, the thumbnail is going to be something we briefly mentioned. Like, let's say that's the title. And then the thumbnail is going to be big David Goggins, little me, little the other person. Because who the fuck knows who we are? Is that a good approach? Yes or no? How would you improve the strategy? Go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's unethical. I think, like, to your point, you're watching the click-through rates, which is huge. It took me a long time to do that, to really pay attention to that. So yeah, I think like as long as you're paying attention to it and maybe testing other types of thumbnails against it. So one of the things though to look out for is like some of the best videos I have on my channel performing the best have like a 3.2, 3.3% click-through rate because they're being shown and recommended to more people. Whereas like some of the ones that aren't doing as well have like an 8 or 9 because they're not being shown to a bunch of people, mainly just my audience. And my audience is saying, oh yeah, I like Eddie, click.
Is there a baseline? Like if like, again, like is there something that you guys say like this is kind of what I'm shooting for? Is it like on the click-through rate, like 3%? Because you mentioned before too, like sometimes there's some things that sounds like you can't really control, like how much YouTube is going to push it out. I mean, excluding like keywords, but like, is there a baseline you kind of look at? 3%, 10%? Like, what is good for Eddie?
So
don't look at him.
I'm looking at him because this is literally like he's been helping me with this for like 2 years. So it's just it's hilarious. So like, what you do is you can look at all your videos and how many impressions they're getting. So like how often YouTube's saying, hey, this is a good video and throwing it out there and seeing if people click it. And so you can sort by the number of impressions and click-through rate. So if you have 5 videos, and these videos are at the top, they all have 2 million impressions each. You go, okay, they're in the same bucket then. YouTube values them relatively similarly. Yeah. Now let's look at their click-through rates. And they're all 3.3, 3.4, 3.2, and one of them is 1.1. You go, oh, well, they're all being shown the same amount, but that one down there is being clicked way less. So like that would be a starting point.
Okay, so then you're gonna go, all right, let me work on this thumbnail a little bit. Do you change the title too, or no?
Sometimes, but rarely. Like
it's just the thumbnail.
Yeah, like me personally, yeah, the thumbnail.
Like what's a good weight for MMA?
A good weight?
Yeah,
there's several. There's not like a good weight.
But that's what you're asking.
Damn, Eddie. Or Evan, damn. You got me. Let's go. All right, yeah.
Because there's categories.
It's whatever, yeah.
There's categories, right?
There's levels to this.
So there's levels to this. So it's the same thing. It's like if you have a video, to Eddie's example, of 2 million impressions.
How long were you sitting on that? Because I feel like you felt really good about that example.
Had it in his back pocket
Dude,
for 20
I feel
minutes.
like you were sitting on that for a minute, though. Because when I fell for the trap, your look on your face was like, fucking got him.
It's fine. We can get RD all day. But it's a smart question. Like you're starting down the right path. And as you go deeper, you realize that it's not a smart question because it's all relative to how well the videos are doing. So a video that has 2 million impressions should be getting a lower click-through rate than a video that has 1,000 impressions. Yeah. So you can't compare them. You have to compare apples. What's a good reach? Well, what category are we in, right? Because it depends. The reach of a heavyweight is going to be different than a reach of a 6-foot guy versus the reach of a 5-foot guy. It's going to be a different reach. Unless the 5-foot guy has like just freakishly long arms, right? Okay. But what's a good, right? So we have to be comparing this similar things.
So you compare the impressions, you put them in a bucket like you were saying. So the impressions, so these all have 1 million impressions, which I laughed a little bit because I was like, yo, I get happy when I'm at like 1.2K. Like I was like,
great,
let's go.
But you find 1,000. I usually do like in 5s and 1s. So 50 to 100, 100 to 500, 500 to 1,000, 1,000 to 5,000, 5,000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 50,000, 50,000, right? And you group those. So if you have 1,000 to 5,000 impressions, that's one group of videos. Then look at the click-through rates relative to each other and see the lower half. That's what you got to fix. Now, to your example with the David Goggins story, I would be a little iffy on it. Only because the thing that matters the most for YouTube is how much are people watching the video. Watch time is the king, right? So if you say big David Goggins on the thumbnail, and then you even put in your coming ups, a little clip of like you talking about Goggins, but then it's a 40-minute video and you only talk about David Goggins for like 2 minutes of it, you will probably get destroyed on your watch time.
Yeah.
Because people aren't watching. Point. If you just go for click-through rate, you could just say, I'm giving everyone $1 million for free.
Yeah.
And you'll get a huge click-through rate. But they're not going to watch the video because you're talking about something completely different.
Yeah.
So the title and thumbnail have to match the promise of what I'm going to get in the video. You look at Mr. Beast, back to him, the thumbnails he uses, that never actually happens, but it's still connected to what I'm going to see in the video.
Yeah.
So that's where, how much Goggins are we talking about? If it's 2 minutes of Goggins in a 40-minute interview, I probably wouldn't lead Goggins on my thumbnail because you're probably going to get destroyed on watch time. So you can have a high click-through rate and crappy watch time.
So then what do you do then in a situation, again, like a podcast with two unknown people? I mean, without leveraging the other things, what would you kind of
What's
do?
the main?
Well, let me ask you this. What's the thumbnail for this one? I'm pulling this out like I'm about to fucking draw it, but I'm really bad at drawing.
So what's the main theme of this video or the video with your coaching client?
Well, this one so far has been, I don't even know what the hell we talk about. I think that's how you know it's a good podcast. I don't even know what the hell we've been talking about. We're all over the place.
So if you think about what are the coming ups going to be from this video, and it's what did you learn from it? What is your big takeaway? What are the aha moments? This is not, if you made this just about how to blow up on YouTube or something.
Yeah, it's boring as shit.
Well, no, not necessarily. But the people who are coming for that are going to get bored by the first 30 minutes of this episode where you're talking about all this other stuff, right? So what's the main takeaway? What's the through line through all the stuff that we've talked about that you found interesting? And then that becomes the theme of the video. When you have somebody, you can use me, cool. That'll attract some people.
We did the last one.
Great. If you're using
his face was like this, I love
but
that.
Cool. My audience might care about that, right? But if you have a no-name consultant on, then what's the theme? What are you talking about? It's like how to build $1 million consulting practice in the next 6 months, or whatever you actually end up talking about. What's the big problem that you're solving with him, and then that becomes the main message.
Yeah. Okay. And then so that's around. Podcasting and thought leadership. And again, the reason I got the idea, I got this from, it's just odd, but it's got it from a comedian podcast because I watch a lot of Flagrant with
Schultz.
Schultz. And they do really solid thumbnails. And again, it's always just one topic from the podcast, and then it won't even be sometimes the guest. It'd be like Elon, and then it'd be like perfect example is Stephen A. Smith that was on a guest. Stephen A. Smith says Michael Jordan was the best scorer of all time. Right? That's just one thing that they said. And you look and oh, it's an hour. Oh, that's the podcast. It's not even a clip. And so it kind of got me thinking about that. So for you, though, if you're doing spoken word, how do you approach this?
It's funny. Well, it's funny you mentioned comedians because I feel like they do the social media game right. They're really
they're the best content creators, period, because they have to create
a
whole hour
every
couple months.
The long form, utilizing it for short term thumbnail. They just do a lot of stuff right. And they're very catchy. But yeah, in my world, the thumbnails, I guess studying what's worked and just sort of replicating that. So I don't put my face on a lot of them. It's not that I'm against it, but
you're a very pretty man. You should do that.
Well, I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm using very intense faces of athletes at the gym or whatever. Because it correlates to my message,
motivation.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, always testing.
So then, can we move on to watch time? Okay, so retention, pacing, all these fancy YouTube terms that I'm learning over time. Okay,
you're a fancy guy now, RD. Let's
see
go.
Me pacing. I don't even know if I'm using that word right. I just feel good when I say it. So again, I want to start with you because you're the most opposite of me, and that you're very thoughtful. In terms of
you got to give yourself a little credit, man.
When I listen, Eddie, look at me.
He's pretty and thoughtful.
You're pretty. You're thoughtful.
Oh man,
you're a catch. Man.
If he didn't get married 2 weeks ago, I'd start. What's happening here?
I'm just saying. All right. Here's the thing, though. Okay, is we're complete opposite in that. When I say I wing it, Eddie, I mean half the time when I hit record, I don't know what the hell's gonna come out of my mouth. Right? I'm trying to do a little bit better. I mentioned the David Goggins thing. I actually just did a masterclass. Him, I used in the thumbnail. Only because literally it's 3 insights from David Goggins and how you can apply them in business. So it's a little bit different, but it's still
that's not bad.
how I came to that though was I literally looked up 2 keywords. One of them was because now YouTube has that research section in the creative. So I just looked up keywords and it was like business mindset mastery had a gap for some reason, a content gap, and obviously David Goggins is pretty highly searched, associated with business too. So I was like, let's just make a video about that. And so now I'm kind of using it to come up with ideas. Anyway, with you, walk me through like your creative process and how you're planning out a video. Like, do you start with the idea, you wake up and I go, I have this idea, you write it down, turn that into a video, or how do you do it?
Yeah, well, I look at it as like a journal, like sharing. Like, I'll definitely write something about this conversation for sure. Like, and being here. And
are you gonna say Raylan though? Like, is the name gonna get there? Or are you just talking?
I'll commit
about
to that. I'll say it.
Wow,
I'll say
there
it.
we go.
Yeah.
Let's
We
go.
made it, bitches.
Were you going to before I brought that up though?
I hadn't thought about it. I mean, I'm not opposed. I'm all about it.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay.
Shout out to
Evan and
Let's
Raylan. But yeah, no, it's just always been on the lookout for just like what I'm experiencing, which is cool because you have to ask yourself the question. Like, it makes you think about your day and what was good and what was bad and what you do different. Just makes you like more methodical. And so basically what I do is whether it's, maybe I'm listening to something on Evan's channel, I hear a quote and I go, ooh, I'm going to unpack that on a video. I think that's really cool. Or like, I'm going to talk about Evan and Raylan's podcast episode, some really good epiphanies, was feeling some things, learned some things. You guys will use this, right? And so it's taking that idea and then getting, the other stuff, the music and the cadence, and just kind of putting that together in a way that I feel like
So you get an idea. I'm going to cut you off a lot.
Yeah,
I want to break this down. So you get the idea. How what's the word I should use here? How disciplined are you on immediately going and doing the writing to have it down? Because have you heard? You know who Mitch Hedberg is?
No.
Comedian, old school comedian. He's from Canada. Shout out to Canada.
Let's go.
Well, he died of heroin, so there's that. But anyway, super depressing. But he has this hilarious joke, and he says, "Sometimes I'm laying in my hotel room, and I think of a really funny joke, but I'm tired. So now I have to convince myself it's not that funny because I don't want to get up and write it down." And I think that's a lot of what happens sometimes is that discipline of going, I have this idea, but then something happens, you go, I'll remember, and you don't fucking do it. So I'm curious for you, like, I would imagine you're pretty disciplined with, idea, pull up phone, notes, do whatever. Like, what does that process look like?
Yeah, well, ideally, if you're in, we were talking about this earlier, like in an emotive state, like, and you can write for sure, but like putting it in my Evernote so that I remember it is fine. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be able to come back to it and sort of.
Do you have a day that you?
So this has been a roller coaster,
Your day
but
is
I'm
what, Tuesday, right?
3 days. I do 3 new speeches a week. So right now I'm doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning. I'm writing a speech those 3 days.
Damn.
Yeah.
How long are the speeches typically?
Anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes.
How many words is that?
Oh man. Usually like 1 to 2 Microsoft Word pages.
God damn. All right. Listen, here's like my kind of takeaway so far is that like I could do way better. Like I think what's the word I'm looking for? I've just been winging it too much.
You are all heart, which is great, and you never want to lose your heart, but
Yeah.
you got to bring more brain into it. Like if you go back to the fighting world, you didn't just show up in a ring and I don't know, I'm athletic, so I can just fight, right?
Yeah.
Like there's training,
Yeah.
there's discipline, there's a diet regimen, you knew how many times you were in the gym, and you might not have been as disciplined as some other people, but you didn't just show up in the ring and wing it because you're gonna get your ass kicked.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So all right.
This is also where just extend that analogy a little bit more, because you could actually wing it with people who like sucked at fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
And they'll tell you, oh my God, you're so good. But if you actually got in the ring with people who were great or did any level of discipline, like it's going to be tough or you'll lose.
Yeah.
So this is where like the feedback around you might be, oh my God, Raylan, like you're such a natural. You're so good. You're so killer at this. But they have low standards for what like content creation is and what you could be. Where if you're showing up and just winging it on the big stage, you're going to get your ass handed to you.
Evan, I haven't had a single, and this is a problem. I haven't had a single person come up to me and say your content sucks. Not once. Which I think that's a problem.
Do you think it does?
Yeah, because I know it sucks. And yet no one's ever come up to me and say, hey, I think this could be better if you did da-da-da, or you should be preparing more. I could tell your wing. I could tell whatever. No one's ever come back to me and said, hey, whatever, which means I get the sense that I have a lot of people around me that are like, oh, this is so great, because they don't, like, it's like, jiu-jitsu, right? I'm a blue belt. You guys are like brown belt, black belts, right?
Yeah.
And they're white belts and looking at me like, oh, that's really, really good.
Yeah.
But really, I know it's not.
But then that keeps you stuck in blue belt mode.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah, you're so good, Raylan. Look at you. Oh, you're so kick ass. Look at you crushing it.
Yeah.
And also, maybe to them it is.
Well,
like,
of course
that's
it is.
the thing, right? It's like, that's why like hanging out with people that have been around longer is such a valuable thing, because Evan can tell you, hey, be more prepared. It's not just hard, but also
You got to get around the black belts.
you are your own experiment too. So like, there's going to be like, I have my process, Evan has his process. You might realize that if the pendulum swings between being completely scripted to completely off the cuff, you're more here to the right than other people, right? And that's something you have to play around with and explore. And that's why it's a process, you know? In other words, I've gotten into trouble with rabbit holes, seeing very successful people doing things a specific way and thinking that is the path.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just not always the case.
Man, like that was a huge eye opener for me, and something that like I want to like. There's something that I had an old coach say once, and he said I did a move to him, and I tapped him out in jiu-jitsu, and he's a black belt, and he goes, good job, but also just know that would never work against somebody else. I go, what do you mean? I got the job done. You know what I mean? I tapped you out. At the time, I was a blue belt, and I tapped at a black belt. Let's go. And he goes, I don't want...
My legs are broken.
Yeah, like I was like, well, yeah. And he goes, well, here's the thing, though. I'm not trying to train you to tap out, like, anybody. I want you to consistently tap out the black belts of the black belts. There's levels of black belt. Mm-hmm. Just because you're a black belt doesn't mean you're done. Like, there are people that have been black belts for longer, that are more whatever. He goes, I'm a black belt, but I'm not, like, the black belt you want to beat. So don't do that. Move that way again. Do it right. So when I look at you guys, I think my new goal is to get to the point where I can make content, not for the white belts, but can I get content that Evan actually wants to watch, or that Eddie actually is interested in, and actually watch the fucking thing and get something out of it. I think that's a kind of an interesting way to look at it.
So I'll throw this out there. There's a chance that you may be overthinking when at a certain point it's just reps. Like, it's just consistently, like, again, quoting a previous conversation, quantity creates quality. So, like, I don't know how long you've been doing it or how certain you are that something is not the right way, but just by continuously shooting the shot, you refine naturally. Yeah. So that's something that
as long as you're looking to improve, you know, like, because if you just show up every day and you're just winging it each time, you don't get better. Like, you can keep doing reps and stay stuck in blue belt too.
That's true. Yeah.
Because you're not learning and trying to get better. Now, the fact that you look at your content and think that it sucks is great. If you keep looking at the content and you think that it sucks, you're gonna either quit or you're gonna make it better. Yeah. And hopefully, you keep making it better, right? Yeah. Like, normally the entrepreneurs and stuff that I mentor, who build businesses with, like, I'm not your friend. Like, I'm your friend. But I don't want to hear about your little wins. Yeah. It's like, you got this. This is great, cool, awesome. But it's more like I'm here to. You go celebrate those things with your friends. Yeah. I'm like, we're gonna go change the world, and that's all I want to talk about, right? So, like, congrats, yay. Yeah. Let's cross the sidewalk, but, like, we're here to do something much bigger. So, like, you get enough of the you rock. Like, when somebody comes in and they feel like they're awesome, that's usually when it's like, okay, dude, you suck. Like, you think you have a great podcast? This is like nothing burger, dude. Right? But if they come in and you felt like, man, I don't know, my podcast sucks, and I like, then that's where you lift the person back up. I think that's like what great coaches will do. When somebody comes in with a huge head, you like tear them back down to where they should be to then build them up. And when somebody comes in really low, then you have to lift them, because you can't push that person who feels like they hate their life. But you're coming in here, and which is a weird energy for people to watch, because if you're talking about your show and saying that it sucks, people in the audience who are watching be like, what do you like? This is so mean, but it's actually like the best thing for the person, because you don't need more people telling you how awesome you are. You need people to hand it to you and say, dude, what are we doing here?
Because also it would be boring to me, honestly, because maybe something's wrong with me, but I like things that I'm not good at. Like I get obsessive about it, and if I was good out the gate and I had millions of subscribers when I first started and all this stuff, like I would get bored of it. I think I would probably quit, like, because it's like there's something to the constant wanting to improve. And even from our conversation, I changed my calendar from now Tuesdays is my creation day, because it just it just happened weird where it was like I just had a day where I had no meetings and I was like, I'm just gonna create today. And so now it's like, oh, I'm going to actually write out what I kind of want to do for this masterclass, and I'll film it this day and whatever. Whereas before, I didn't have a day that I created. It was just my editor goes, hey, we got to post on YouTube. I need 4 more videos. And I go, all right. And I hit the camera and I go. And then I just got in a habit of that.
Yeah.
I do want to talk, though, about your music and stuff, too, though. So, like,
Sure.
You said next comes, you write the talk. This is going to sound really redundant, but, like, is it in the morning? At night, do you have a time? Do you drink coffee? Do you put on music?
So like in an ideal situation, which doesn't always occur, but it's like first thing, just because like I've noticed with like creative stuff, it's like the longer you let it breathe between when you wake up and do it, the greater the odds that you don't, because I feel like the situation has to be right for you to sit down and do that. So like this wake up as soon as I can and grab the coffee and write it out. And then, like, it's funny, like, coming from a music background, it's an advantage in that, I have, like, I know how to engineer. Like, I use Pro Tools and, I have an interface. And so I'll write it out, grab the mic thing, flip it around, read it out, and then record it, edit the audio, and then send it to the video people. So it can, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like but the music, like, before I had money to license it, I would write my own, but now I don't. I just have like same thing with video libraries. Like there's music libraries where I just use that stuff.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then what's your process? Because you don't do just the DJ stuff. You actually do your own talking stuff. But what's your process? I know you Tuesday you create, but what does that look like for you?
So like after this, I'm going to be doing a group training inside my community. Mm-hmm. Eddie's going to join me. Maybe I'll say something great. That will click up.
I'm sure you will.
We're doing this. Maybe I say something great that then my team will take and put up and mash it up to like an Evan 10 rules or something. Yeah. So I'll be making every Tuesday. I have like set videos that I'm making, and I have one big filming day a month where it's like, don't talk to me, don't give me anything. I just need to crank out like 60 videos. Mm-hmm. So that's all I'm doing. And then one smaller shoot a month. One big shoot a month, 3 smaller shoots a month for stuff that, just smaller videos I have to get up. And then I'll do things during the week. Like Thursday is my public facing day. I had training this morning in my community. We might use something from there. Like I'm making way more content than we ever use. Yeah. So when you offered, hey, you can use the footage from the last one, amazing, thank you. And maybe I said something great there or here that we might use, or maybe not. I think I said some things. Hopefully something good. Hopefully something was good. Yeah. But Tuesday is really like I have to get this stuff done.
I would clip out, if I was recommending to your team right now, clip out the side. I don't care about your small wins. I would just that part. That's the only thing. I would clip that out and then it goes to your Instagram.
It's powerful. Yeah,
but then if you're looking for the hole in a market gap, and you said on your research tab it came up that was motivation or mindset?
No, business mindset mastery.
Yeah, so like unlocking mindset mastery.
Yeah.
Right? And then that's a clip because that relates to mindset.
Yeah.
I don't care about your small wins. I want to go change the world.
Yeah.
That's a good opening clip for a video that's called about unlocking the mindset mastery.
Yeah. I think also that is kind of the theme of today as we kind of wrap, because you had to be done at 12, right?
I got to be live at 12.
Okay. Yeah. We'll wrap up here because we got 10 minutes. But the thing is the one thing that I'm always in awe with people like you guys is like you've mastered your way, right? Not only did you find your voice, not only did you find your way of doing it, you've mastered it. Like I have found ways to do it, but didn't master it yet. And what I love about people like you is you guys are constantly striving for that mastery. Even what you guys talked about earlier of like, all right, taking the like-minded or the impression and you compare them against each other, and then you're going to find the low-hanging fruit. That's the thumbnail. Like that's, to me, is so fascinating and going and then looking at it and go, why didn't this work? Like, what do we got to change? How can we make this better? And one of the things that I think people, and I feel for them, they don't have something worth to master yet. Like they haven't found the thing. And I think, a good place to start is that inner dialogue. I think if you can master that, you can do anything. So with that being said, I think the final thing I'd like to kind of get into briefly before we finish is like, where is your greatest struggle right now with your business, with your creative? Like, is there something going on in your life, and how are you approaching it so you can overcome that? Because I don't think you ever stop elevating. I don't think you ever, get to a point where like you're not growing anymore and everything's good and hunky dory. But for you, Eddie, is there something that stands out to you that you're struggling with, that you're overcoming, and how you're approaching it?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say struggling, but definitely a turning point is mentally for me, like moving from a creator to like a business owner, right? Mm-hmm. So like it's been fine and it's worked and it's been like the ride of my life and I love it, but I've been a guy in an apartment, mm-hmm. right? And so now like I'm reaching more people and I have the resources to expand that and not change it, but increase the magnitude and the scale. And so, there's an idea that like the way you make 100K is not the same way you make $1 million, right? And so it's learning the ins and outs and positioning what's at my disposal to best elevate that part of the process. So it feels like a new beginning. From creator
to actual like focusing, acting like a business owner.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not just a creator.
Yep.
Are you worried about that at all? Like
I'm excited about it. Yeah. I mean, there's some parts that are like uncomfortable, like, having to let go of a lot of stuff. Mm. Like, I mean, I had this process end to end, and like when you feel so passionately about what you're putting out, it's important, but everyone feels that way. Right. And so it's a matter of like, dude, get over it. Like, cause you can stay here. It's always an option, but do you want that? No, then, pull the Band-Aid off. And so it's been hiring people to help with thumbnails and editing and, intake and just that type of stuff.
Especially for a creator, I bet that's hard as shit. Oh, like for me, it was easy. Tough. I was like, I don't know how to edit. So I was like,
it feels like your baby. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's.
Is there anything for you, Evan?
I think we're all masters at what we're doing, and then, but we suck compared to where we want to go. Mm-hmm. So, you mastered the Zoom interviews, but at the beginning you kind of were figuring it out, mm-hmm. and now you're here, and now you've kind of mastered the podcast room setup. But to make this happen the first time, you had to call around and find a thing, and like it was. Yeah. It was work, and then you figured it out. Now you're here. But now this is easy. Now you know how to do this 100 times. So you've mastered this, but you suck at the next thing. So I've mastered what I do, but I suck compared to what I want to be. Mm. I'm like complete beginner. What's my challenge? How do I 10x my channel? How do I get to 35 million subscribers? Because current Evans is not a master. Like sucks compared to who I need to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to get there. Nobody's done it. Like people have built channels that big. Yeah. But inside of education and thought leadership, like nobody's come even close. It's like nobody's come even close. Nobody's cracked 10, let alone 35. So how do I do it? I don't know. I'm an idiot, right? Like all the stuff that I'm saying about click-through rate, that's what I know now. But I need to get 100 times smarter to figure out how to get there. So we're all masters at what we're currently doing. It's like Eddie had his process and he was a master of that process. Cool, but that process sucked for who you are now, right? Like that kept you at 50,000 subscribers. Awesome. Now he's at 500,000 almost, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we're all masters of what we're currently doing, but we suck compared to who we need to be to get to the next big step.
All right. I think that was good. I appreciate you guys. Seriously, awesome, this was tons of fun. And yeah, I love you guys. You guys are the best. Thank you for listening to The Elevated Entrepreneur. If you want to check out more about the guest, look at the description below. And as always, if you're a beginner coach or even someone that's seasoned and you're looking to join a community of like-minded individuals, learn about branding, lead generation, sales, you name it, think about applying to the Elevated Coaches Academy. You can learn more about that in the description below. I look forward to having you in the next episode. We'll talk to you soon. Stay motivated, stay elevated.